did the most meetings, attended the most sessions. We were tracking everything both by Bluetooth and RFID. We know who's been in each session, we know how long they've been in each session. It's really important that we feed that back to the sponsors so they know who's been listening to what they said and they can follow up afterwards. This event only works if the sponsors are happy. And I really liked Christoph's little speaker shares moment a few minutes ago, and he said about the importance of the channel press. I agree with him, and pretty much the same applies to us. We need the vendors to keep the community strong. Now, we've just been asked a few questions, so I'm going to go into a bit of keynote mode for a few minutes and tackle a couple of subjects that we didn't tackle yesterday. Brexit. I didn't tackle it yesterday because nobody has a clue today what's going to happen, and it's only 6 months away. There is complete uncertainty and chaos. How any sensible business can plan for something that is so unknown and so manufactured is extraordinary. But we'll try a little bit and give you a quick summary. As of today, as far as I can understand the politics, there are 3 scenarios. One is we wake up, we realise it was all a bad dream, nothing happens, there's a second referendum, new election, and Britain stays in the European Union. That's one scenario. If that happens, the pound will rise, tech prices will fall, and there will probably be a boom in the UK, short-term boom. The second scenario, probably the most likely, is there will be a compromise between the United Kingdom and the European Union that looks very much like the United Kingdom still in the European Union, but is worded differently so they can pretend they've withdrawn, and pretty much everything stays the same. In which case, the pound will rise, tech prices will fall, and we'll probably have a mini boom. And the third scenario is the so-called hard Brexit, where there is no deal, or virtually no deal, in which case there'll be all sorts of chaos and disruption. Most likely the UK will fall into a recession, possibly a very deep recession, and vendors, and probably more importantly distributors, will have a lot of work to do. We may well end up with a model where UK has different products to Europe, different codes, different approvals, and we're not even allowed to ship them through to ship products from UK to Europe or vice versa. There will certainly be product delays, and there will be product oversupply situations because it isn't so easy to move products across countries. There will need to be more warehouses in the UK as more components need to get to the UK. There will be a recession, the pound will weaken, tech prices will go up, and how bad it gets will be unpredictable. But the real point is that it's so close, and yet we know so little. So those are the 3 scenarios for Brexit. And I talked a little bit, and you heard John mention it as well. I will say a political thing. Some people get upset now, but the European Union, the main reason it was founded, it's not perfect, but the European Union was founded to make sure Europe never goes to war again. And if the UK really leaves in such a hard way from the European Union, you don't know in the future, not in 2 or 3 years, but in 10, 20, 30 years, whether that can lead to things that catastrophic. It's possible. That was the founding reason for the European Union. So let's hope. Let's see. I also want to show you a little bit of data. I probably didn't drive this hard enough yesterday. The last 12 months have been fantastic for the channel. The distributors in the first 6 months of the year grew 6% by revenue. The channel partners in the room, we estimate averaged 11% growth for the first half of this year. There are many reasons for the growth. The economy is strong. The digital revolution that we talked about last year and you've heard so much of, the digital transformation, is clearly expanding the tech industry and creating new opportunities. The hybrid IT message has really resonated with established businesses. The all-in on cloud might work for a startup, but if you have a lot of legacy, it's not going to work anytime soon. It's a mixed model. And for a CIO to release budget on a new initiative, they get the hybrid model. It means they can do some new stuff and they can re-energize the existing stuff. They can cope with that decision and they're making those decisions. One of the surprising things of the year, which I have to admit we didn't forecast, one of the surprising things of the year is how strong the server market has been. The server market overall revenue in the first half of this year globally grew 40%, 40% by revenue. It's absolutely astonishing. Obviously that also helps by the hyperscalers investing the amount of money they need to. But perhaps a more important number, through the channel in Europe, units of servers, but through the channel, units of servers was down slightly, but revenue grew 29% on servers. Now, some of that is because of component prices going up, particularly memory, but the more important trend is we've moved to servers with richer configurations. Higher performance processors, more RAM, bigger storage, the price points have gone up, and it's been very lucrative for all of you. As a result of that digital transformation, we're also seeing tremendous growth in the networking industry, and 100 gigabit switches are now becoming common in the network. So we're seeing the regeneration of the data center leading to an investment in networking. So many parts of the industry have been strong. The PC has been incredibly strong. That's good. Some of the distributors have found that their volume products have been so much better than expected that it's impacted their margins, because the margins are higher on the enterprise side. There are a lot of new vendors entering the tech industry in all sorts of different areas. I talked about robotic process automation yesterday. There are thousands of security companies, companies in artificial intelligence, companies in blockchain. They are all coming to the channel. Small, but lots of new vendors, and that's helping the distributors. So there is really growth across the board, and it's really tremendous. Now, yesterday, I did make the prediction it's going to get tougher. So we said here 11% growth. We were predicting that this group next year will only grow 5%. And obviously, as a result of that prediction, word got out to Wall Street, and the Nasdaq went down 4% yesterday. Share prices have crashed in Asia and Europe today, and are predicted to go lower when New York opens, or it's probably about to open, opens in an hour or two. There is that feeling in the air that something is changing, and the key driver is US interest rates going up, the cost of money in the US going up. There's a lot of emerging economies, I don't know why they do it, but there's a lot of emerging economies with a lot of debt in dollars, and that debt gets more expensive as interest rates go up. Obviously, countries like Turkey, for example, are very exposed to that trend. Argentina's been another one. So there is tension in the system, and that's what it feels like. And so the stock market in the next few days could be very, very interesting, whether it's a short-term wobble or really we've seen a sign that that optimism has come out and we're moving into a new phase of the industry. One other question that I've been asked a lot today, actually, is about blockchain. And one area of the industry that's done badly this year is GPUs. Last year, the industry, companies like AMD and NVIDIA, made a lot of money selling high-performance kit to miners of cryptocurrencies around the world, in Russia, in China, etc. That market has crashed as the price of Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies has crashed. And that has led to a second-hand market. And we are seeing refurbished goods become more important than they have been. In that area, in the GPU space, for example, but of course also in the smartphone market, there's a very rich market for second-hand iPhones. So refurbished goods is another trend. The GPUs have crashed, that's gone, price have then come down. There's a lot of second-hand equipment. Personally, I'm deeply skeptical that cryptocurrencies will have a long-term future. They make sense for drug dealers and terrorists. I'm not sure how much sense they make for the real economy. And I would expect them to continue to crash, but who knows, I can be wrong. Blockchain is much more important. It's probably going to get a bad reputation as a result of the crashes in the currencies. We'll then go through a trough of disillusionment before we start to see real applications. Blockchain is a distributed database. That's all it is. It has the advantage of being self-maintaining and not needing one particular company to own it and control it. There is a lot of investment going on, particularly in the financial industry, to try and move to blockchain technologies in areas like smart contracts. I was asked, and we did a press roundtable this morning, and I was asked there, should the channel be investing? I'm not quite sure it's time. It feels to me like it still might be a bit early. If you're starting a new company and you're a young kid, you may want to go into the blockchain area. Right now, it's far from mainstream. It's very experimental. But maybe I've been convinced that, like artificial intelligence, it's an area you should be exploring for the future. It won't bring you big revenues now, but it may well bring big revenues over the next 3 to 5 years. The idea, for example, that every diamond in the world can be recorded on blockchain would take fraud, and there's a lot of fraud and corruption in diamonds, out the window, and could solve that problem in one strip. Now, a lot of people would be delighted to solve the fraud and corruption problems by having blockchain diamonds on blockchains, but of course a lot of people would be disappointed as well, and will actively not want that to happen because it's very lucrative for them. Land registry is another issue which is very important, particularly in emerging economies, where there's a lot of disputes about who owns what land. Having the whole of the land of a country recorded in a blockchain and forever updated and changes recorded and agreed would make a big difference and it would solve a lot of disputes. So there are lots of applications where this may end up being useful. But it's early, it's complicated, it's sophisticated, and it may depend which country you sit in. Particularly if you're in a country with a lot of finance industry, it may be something to start exploring. So I now want to welcome Rita back on stage, and we're going to go to the live questions. Rita?